Sometimes ToneX users could get so hung up on thinking of ToneX as just simply a tone model player that we can forget that there are some built-in features in it that can really help us raise our tone to a new level and get very creative. You might ask what I'm talking about. Well, I'm talking about the fairly simple set of effects that we have built into it. Now, while they are a simple set of effects, they're still quite powerful, and we can, if used properly, really elevate a tone model to a new place that could spark some cool creative ideas from us. Let's dive in and take a look, and I'll throw a few ideas at you that hopefully will spark your creativity and help you to maybe dive into ToneX a little further and start adding some subtle or not so subtle effects to your tone model. So I'm going to start off with a tone from one of my recent collections. This is my vintage 65 Deluxe Verb collection, and this is based off of my actual all original 1965 Deluxe reverb, and it sounds absolutely incredible with a variety of different guitars. I'm playing my beautiful new 64 Custom Shop Telly here, and I'll just pick one of the tones off the vibe channel from here so we can take this and see how we can shape this using some of the effects within ToneX. So here's the core tone. Little edge of break up there if we really dig into it. So let's start off with the delay. Now, a lot of times folks will come into the delay and they might just maybe grab a tape delay, and I do this too. I set it so that it's set to sync with the music, maybe to a quarter note, a little bit of feedback and some mix. And there's nothing wrong with this. This would be beautiful if we were playing some nice leads. But what if we wanted to get a little more creative and maybe a little less overt about it? We could do something with a tone like this where we say, bring this particular time down to a 16th note. So more of a slapback type effect, maybe bring our feedback down. As another possibility, let's go to a digital delay. We'll set this to a dotted 8th note, bring our feedback down, and let's bring our mix up to around 73. And we could get that typical kind of bouncy dotted 8th delay. So a lot of cool creative ways we can use the ToneX delay. And I know a lot of folks might think, well, it's just a simple delay, so I'll just put it on for some standard repeats. But you can see there with both slapback style and these bouncy dotted 8th notes, it actually can work for some very creative purposes. And we can save any of those settings as a preset and recall it with any particular tone model. Let's move over to the modulation effects. Now, again, if we look at this and think, oh, it's too simple, it's not going to really give us a tone that we're looking for, and we just turn it on, play a chord, maybe go, I'm not really crazy with those settings. We can use the controls here to be quite flexible with it. One thing I like to do with the chorus is bring that rate way down, depth maybe up around there. And use the level control also, which acts kind of more like a mix control. And we can get some really beautiful chorus effects. That can really bring this subtlety to life. Now we can combine that with maybe a bigger delay or the Spring 4 algorithm, which is actually quite a cool algorithm. Don't forget to bring your mix control up. So with a nice spring and a dab of chorus, with the proper settings, it can really bring things to life. Let's move on and take a look at the tremolo effect. Again, we might pull that up and think, nah, that's not really what I'm looking for, but setting the note sync, which I think is really important with tremolo, so it kind of locks in with the music, slowing that down a bit, playing with our level control. See how we have a much more subtle effect here now. Playing with our shape control. Here it's a little more pulsating now. Now, spread is interesting. As we bring it up, you have to be listening in stereo and set up in stereo with your particular setup, whether we're using ToneX pedal, ToneX One, or the software. But we will hear a stereo spread. Now, something to keep in mind with our pre-post switch, if we do have something set up to be very overtly stereo, let's maybe come over to our delay and set this up to be a very overt ping pong delay where we hear it going back and forth. If we move the effect to pre instead of post, we will lose the stereo-ness, if that's a word, of the effect because it's now going into a monotone model. So just keep in mind that if we do put any effects before the tone model, we lose any stereo elements of it and it collapses to mono. So you can listen here. In pre, I move it to post and I get the ping pong effect back. So it's going to also be like that. If we set a high spread, move that pre, the spread control now doesn't have any effect unless we put it in post, where it's going to collapse it to mono. Nothing wrong with running it either way, but it's just something to be aware of. So a great little tremolo. The phaser is a very cool effect as well. And again, we can use our level control as a bit of a mix. And a very subtle amount can really add some depth and dimension, especially when we have these in stereo. Bring our level down, maybe bring our depth way up. And again, if we were to just turn off all the effects here, we have a beautiful core tone, but we can see that we can really bring it to life. Now, coming back into our delay, let's go to our tape. We'll set it to sync at that 16th note with that kind of slap back type of thing. So now we have this subtle modulation, a beautiful spring reverb, and a very subtle slapback style delay, and it really brings this tone to a new creative place. Let's leave that on. We'll come back over and explore the flanger. Maybe have a setting in pre for that. Bring our rate down, depth and feedback up. And some cool possibilities there. And a real sleeper here is the rotary effect that we have. And again, we can really mess around with the settings. To make it as overt or not so overt if we so desire. We can play around with the radius. And again, if we have the spread down, it's going to be more mono. Put that spread up, it's going to get much more lush. But again, we're going to have to be set up so we can monitor it in stereo. And if we put that in pre, it really changes things a lot. We're going to be feeding the direct signal into that, so it's going to react different, and it's also going to collapse to mono. So if we take this modulation, delay, and reverb and think outside the box, try to get a little bit more creative with it, there are a lot of really cool ways that we can embellish a core tone model. We can start off with a great tone model, and I talk so much about EQ profiles and how an amp breaks up and whatnot when discussing particular tone models. But this is less about those characteristics and more about taking a really strong, solid core tone, much like the tones I was showcasing today, and the links are below to these collections if you're so inclined, like what you heard. And just adding the built-in effects can really raise those to a new creative level and maybe spark some cool musical ideas. I hope that was helpful, and I hope that at least helps to push you in the right direction to kind of experiment with ToneX in a way that you maybe did not think of before. And I hope you get some inspiration from it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, the links are below to the tone models you heard today. If you're so inclined and want to help support the channel, go grab a copy, and I really hope you enjoy those tones. They're absolutely beautiful. Again, they're based off of my actual all original vintage 1965 Fender Deluxe Reverb. Beautiful amp, beautiful set of tone models, and I hope you enjoy them. I'm going to leave you today with the In the Mix audio using these particular tone models together in a mix, and I hope you enjoy that so you can hear what they sound like when used in a full production. Please like the video, share it with anybody you think would get some use or enjoyment out of watching it. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content. I'll be back really soon with some more ToneX content. I hope you enjoy the music on the way out, and we'll talk very soon. Ciao for now.